Hey guys, how's it going? Mr. Mitchell here. In this video we're going to go over interference of water waves. So let's get started. Now in the next few theory videos we're going to be looking at interference by different wave types. And in this video we're going to start off by looking at the interference of water waves. So it starts by saying here that interference can be demonstrated with any type of wave. We will consider a few examples in what follows, starting with water waves. A ripple tank is often used to show the interference of water waves, and you might have seen a ripple tank in National 5 Physics when you did diffraction. And it then says if 2 point sources produce 2 sets of circular waves, they will overlap and combine to produce an interference pattern as shown below. So for example, let's say you've got 2 sources of water waves in your ripple tank, S1 and S2, and these are each separately producing circular waves, as you can see here. And what you can see happen is that when the circular waves overlap, they produce an interference pattern. And that's only going to happen, remember, when the 2 sources of waves are coherent. So we get this interference pattern, which means we get regions of constructive interference and regions of destructive interference. So as it says here, S1 and S2 are coherent point sources, meaning the waves are produced by the same source. So that could be, for example, from having one motor that is producing the waves in your ripple tank. It then says that the semicircular lines represent crests and the troughs are midway between the crests. So each of these solid semicircular lines we're saying are crests, and that means that the regions in between these solid lines can be thought of as the troughs. And remember, all we mean by a crest is the top point of a wave, and by a trough we mean the bottom point of a wave. It then says the points of constructive interference labelled X form waves with the larger amplitude, and the points of destructive interference labelled O produce calm water. So if we look at the diagram again, straight down the middle you've got a region of constructive interference, so that's labelled X, where we have crest meeting crest, so that's solid line meeting solid line, and you'll see we then get regions of destructive interference and then constructive interference again, and so on. And at the points of destructive interference labelled O, such as here, you'll see that this occurs when you've got one solid line overlapping a region that is halfway between the 2 semicircular lines. So that is essentially where a crest meets a trough. So we're saying that the regions of constructive interference will be where there's large amplitude waves, whereas the regions of destructive interference will be regions of calm water. It then says the positions of constructive interference and destructive interference form alternate lines, where we're using solid lines for constructive and dashed for destructive in the diagram, which spread out from the middle of the 2 sources. So here's our solid lines, then our dashed lines, then our solid lines, and so on. Lastly, it says as you move across a line parallel to the sources, you will therefore encounter alternate large waves and calm water. So looking at the diagram, if you imagine a straight horizontal line parallel to the 2 dots, the 2 sources, so as we move from left to right here, we'll have a region of calm water, then a large wave, then another region of calm water, then a large wave, and so on. Now just show you a quick simulation to help you visualize this. So here we have a wave generator, a bit like our ripple tank, and here we've just got one slit to begin with. So let's see what happens when our wave crests, known as wave fronts here, our straight line waves, pass through this single slit or single barrier. Well, you'll see the waves bend and curve to get through that single slit or single barrier. And this, remember, is an example of diffraction taking place. Let's change from one slit to 2 slits this time and see what happens. So this time when the waves from the 2 slits or 2 barriers overlap, we get an interference pattern produced. And you might be able to see we have the brightest ripples in the middle, that's your point of constructive interference, and then we get these kind of more blurry shaded regions here, and that's your regions of destructive interference, your calm water. So remember, we'll have large amplitude waves at the regions of constructive interference and calm water at the points of destructive interference. That's all for this video, folks. Thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.